Hi everyone, it's Julianne here and welcome back. I'm super excited to be here today as a brand new design team member for Scrapbook Pal. And for my first card as a design team member, I'm going to be showing you how I created this Slimline Christmas card. The products I'm going to be using today for this card include the Holiday Cheese stamp and die set from Waffle Flower Crafts, as well as the Slim Ornate banner die set from Pinkfresh Studio. Now to start out my card for today, I did stamp all of the images from the Holiday Cheese stamp set onto a sheet of Express-It blending cardstock, and I did stamp out all of those images using some Memento Tuxedo black ink, so that way I could do some Copic coloring. Now for all of my coloring today, I have sped up that part in the video in order to save some time, but I will make sure to have all of my marker caps off to the side of the screen in case you're interested in any of the color combinations that I'm going to be using today. So as I continue to color, I'm just going to put on some music, and I'll be right back. Once I have all of my images colored in, I'm now going to be using the coordinating dies in order to cut out each of those images. Now to make sure that those dies stay in place as I run them through my die cutting machine, I'm just going to be temporarily adhering them down using some washi tape. Now off camera, I also ran the Slim Ornate dies from Pinkfresh Studio through my die cutting machine as well. I used the medium-sized die in this set with some distressed watercolor cardstock so that I could use that for my ink blending for my background. And I also used the largest die in this set, and I ran that through with some red colored cardstock. Now before I start any of my ink blending for my background, I'm going to kind of play around with the placement of my images so that I can decide where I want my background to start and where I want my surface to be, so that it looks as though my images are actually sitting on a surface and not just floating throughout my background. Once I have a good idea of where I want everything to go, I'm just going to use a piece of masking paper to mask off the bottom of that die cut piece, and then I'm going to start ink blending my winter night sky. The colors that I'm going to be using today are Blueprint Sketch, Chip Sapphire, and finally Black Soot. And all of these inks are just the regular distress inks. I'm going to start out my ink blending using my lightest color of Blueprint Sketch down at the bottom. And then I'm going to come in with chipped sapphire in the center of that panel, blending it in with that blueprint sketch. And then finally, to add some darkness to my sky, I will come in with black soot and I'll add that to the top of my panel. Now, to make sure that I get a nice blend throughout my entire background, I will come back in with a second layer of both the chipped sapphire and blueprint sketch in order to blend everything in together. Once I finished all of my ink blending, I now want to come in and add some snow since this is a Christmas card. So for that, I've pulled out my splat box so that way I can splatter some white paint throughout my background. Now, if you don't have a splat box, that's perfectly okay. You can definitely use an old shoe box or even a box that maybe some of your crafty goodies came in the mail in. Anything like that will work just as well. Once I have my background completely covered in that splatter, I'm now going to start working on assembling everything together. Now, like I showed you earlier, I did use the largest die in the Slim Ornate die set in order to die cut out some red colored cardstock so that it could act as a border behind my ink blended background. But once I started putting everything together, I really just didn't like how that looked, so I decided to run that die back through my die cutting machine using some white cardstock instead, and I really like how this looks much better. Next, I'm going to start working on both of my sentiments for my card. I'm going to be starting out by stamping the smaller sentiment that's going to go onto that cute little sign that the mouse is holding. Now, there are definitely multiple different sentiments in the holiday cheese stamp set to choose from that will all fit on this sign. But for my card today, I decided to go with the cheese to share sentiment. I thought it was super cute. Once I have that all stamped out, I'm now going to start working on stamping my additional sentiment. And I am going to be stamping the sentiment Merry Christmas onto some red color cardstock. Now I will stamp this sentiment using some Versamark ink, so that way I can do some heat embossing, and I will be embossing this with white embossing powder. Now that I have both of my sentiments ready to go, I'm now going to start working on assembling everything together. So I'm going to be adhering my card base to the back of my die cut piece. Now I have trimmed this down to just slightly smaller than that die cut, so that way I could have a shaped card. I really like how that looked. Once I have that all adhered, I will be adhering that extra cup image that I colored in earlier onto the inside of my card as well. And then I'm going to be adhering the stacked cheese image down to my background, making sure to position it over the surface area that I created with my distress inks. And then finally, my last touch is I will be adhering that adorable little mouse, and I'm going to place him at the top of that little cheese tower. I think he fits just perfectly right there. Finally, to finish off this Christmas card, I'm going to be scattering some clear sequins throughout my background, and I'm just going to be adhering those down using some more of that liquid adhesive. And once I have each of those adhered, that's going to complete my Slimline Christmas card featuring the holiday cheese stamp set from Waffle Flower Crafts. I really love how this card turned out, and I hope that you do too. If you did like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, as well as subscribe to this channel for even more card making ideas. For a list of supplies that I've used today to create this card, please see the description box down below. And as always, I hope you have a wonderful day. I'll see you next time, and happy crafting!